How are you, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Noel Kengoi, and my presentation is about Tanzanian engineers cannot afford to wait to fill the gaps towards the fourth industrial revolution. This presentation is made in response to the presentation which was made between 1st and 3rd September 2021 at the topic that a discussion of the impacts of industrial revolution to a middle-income country. And that presentation was made in a meeting which took place in Arusha, including Tanzanian engineers under the Engineers Registration Board, and the meeting was very nice. So I have decided to prepare this presentation so that I may try to address some issues which were not addressed in the meeting. Yeah, we have had 3 industrial revolutions in the world. The first industrial revolution was a revolution which started with the steam engine and textile industries and other industries in Birmingham, Manchester, and wherever in UK. So it was normally based in UK. Then the second industrial revolution was development of electric system, petrol, and of course automation of production means in the world. And that was not only in UK, but it was in UK, in Europe, in Japan, and in USA. Then there is the third industrial revolution, which includes automation, electronics, computing, and computing. And now we are going to the fourth industrial revolution, which is a combination of the 3 industrial revolutions, but also it is also added a lot of improvement in production, and it includes also use of robotics, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. The presenter made a very good job, and I want to highlight some of the points which were discussed by the other presenters, by the discussants in that meeting. Before I want to say what I want to tell you, there are some points from Engineer Malonga. There is too little application of automation in Tanzania. So it means that the Tanzanian engineers have not done their homework or our homework properly in Tanzania. So we have a little automation. And he said also we need to be not only spectators. So we should watch out so that we not be spectators. We need to be participants. And not participants only, we need to be competitors in the fourth industrial revolution. And also he said that we need to set strategies. We need to set metrics. Industrial development should be able to be measured. We need to measure where we were, where are we now, and where are we going. And then he said also there is need to leapfrog. We need to jump from where we are to the fourth industrial revolution. And that should involve a lot of efforts and cooperation among the engineers so that our country may leapfrog and take, if possible, a leading role in the industrial revolution in the world. And then he said that we need to strive and not to survive. You can also take 2 options, whether we want to strive or we want to survive. I think we should strive so that we may be on the leading position. We need to upgrade our education system. Those are points from Engineer Malonga. They are so good. And these are some of the points which are captured from Dr. Ulanga. That he said that we need to upgrade our education system so that we may go hand in hand with the changes in fourth industrial revolution. And he said that there are big companies and they are using data. So the data now have become gold. So he said that we need to set policies to control data, use of data. And then he said that the fourth industrial revolution leads to improvement in productivity. Now, or in future, it is possible for 2 or 3 people to be able to do the work which was normally done by 10,000 people previously. So maybe there will be lack of employment, but also there will be improved production. Continue with the points from Dr. Ulanga. He said that there is a lot of scalability. You know, the production is going to increase a lot, and they said there is spillover, which means that maybe what happens in Tanzania can affect maybe Kenya or other countries. There is effect on what is done in one country to others. And then he said that they are communicating cars. Now cars may be able to communicate. And also he talked about that 5D. There is a plan to establish 5G by 2030. Is our use of internet contributing to development of technologies within our community, or we are just using for leisure, for entertaining and politics? So we need to check to measure our position and take the right measures. Then he said the technology development is synergetic, that it needs teamwork, because many technologies are multidisciplinary, so we need to form team. The Tanzanian engineers ready to form team. And then he talked about the 3D printed infrastructure, intelligent road network, autonomous vehicles, education, and also he talked that we need to have established a new education policy so that we may be able to prepare people for industrial revolution. Of course, I've talked about the education system, but I believe that we need not only to change the education system, but we need to change the mindset of the Tanzanian intellectual, especially an engineer. He said that race towards fourth industrial revolution is for us to participate. But how do we participate? If you listen to me, you are going to get answer from this presentation. He talked about smart robotics, that the robots are going to take the works of human beings. And then he talked about Internet of Things. That what he was talking about is that now the machines are going to be able to communicate. You may have a certain machine here and another machine here, and this machine does something and it gives you information to the other one. The other machine can do something else according to the information received. So we need to have connectivity. He talked about now we have got supercomputers. You know, the computers we are using now, our mobile phones now are more powerful than rockets. The computer which we were used to launch the rockets during those old times. And another thing which I said, and I have to emphasize, that industrial revolution has to be holistic. So we need to have collaboration between people of different field of industries. We need collaboration between mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, civil engineers, electronics engineers, computing experts. We need to have collaboration. So industrial revolution has to be holistic. He also he said that there are new job markets which are being created due to the development of fourth industrial revolutions. He talked about robotics. He talked about biological wars now, a result of fourth industrial revolution. And then the issue of teleportation, smart robotics, Internet of Things. And he said engineers should take a leading role, and I agree with him. But how do we take a leading role? We need not first maybe to wait for the engineers legislation board to implement what we have talked in the meeting, but we need every time as engineers to discuss in the social medias on what we need to do, and we need to form teams. We need to diversify what we are doing right now for Tanzania to take its position in industrial revolution. Okay. There are some points which I want to highlight from retired engineer, retired Colonel Simbakalia. He was saying that Tanzania have everything for electronic vehicles. We have everything. Japan has nothing, but is selling vehicles. So having resources is not enough. We need to have intellectual resources, and we need to be our minds together. There are three factors for industrial revolutions, which he said that there are materials, energy, and technology. And he said that the human capital is in the room. That is, the engineers who are present in the meeting should be the first human capital to ensure that Tanzania can leapfrog towards industrial revolution. And he said, of course, the vehicles should run on gas and electricity. Then I'd like to highlight some of the points talked by Mr. Masanja Kadogosa, the Director General of the Tanzania Railway Corporation. There's one thing which he said, which were interesting to me, that now in the standard gauge electrical system, project from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza into Kigoma, have put the idea of construction of business centers instead of railway stations. He said that in all railway stations, people will come and make transactions in the banks. They can come to the supermarkets, to the restaurants and whatever. And therefore, that makes the project to be viable. That is a very good idea, a very good job by the Tanzania Railway Corporation. And he said that countries cannot change without engineers. So engineers should be, the object for change. Should be, the object for change. The engineer should take his or her responsibility to ensure that the country of Tanzania will change for good. We need African solutions for African problems. And he said also we need arrogance of profession, that professionals should be able to say, we can do this, we can do this. And I tell engineers, we can do it. That was the first saying in the first Tanzanian government by Mwalimu Nyerere. It can be done, play your part. We have Professor Alfred Ngowi, who presented in the University of South Africa, and he's talked about many points, but these are some of the points which I took. First, he said that Africa did not participate in the third industrial revolutions. Africa, so Tanzania in particular, we can say, did not participate. So we need to ask ourselves, if we did not participate in those three industrial revolutions, what are we going to do to leapfrog? And then he said that we should not be spectators. The same as Dr. Ulanga, sorry. We need to have teamwork. That cannot be under-emphasized. And then he talked about precision agriculture. He talked about reskilling and upskilling, learning and uplearning. And he talked about the flexibility of training curriculum is very important. It has to be flexible, according to the actual industrial requirements. And he said that there should be cooperation between academia, policymakers, and industry for us to be able to go forward. And he said that we need critical thinking, problem solving, and innovation to be introduced in our education system. But I want to say that the current education system also does not provide these fundamentals. People are solving equations, but they don't know what they are solving about. And then Tanzania must have vision as a country. Okay, now I want to discuss my own now observation or my own recommendations on the issue. First, I would like to tell fellow engineers that we need to strive and not to survive. We don't need just to fight to survive, we need to fight to strive, and that is possible. The main problem is our mindsets and not financing. Normally when we are told everything is, no, the government should do this, the government should do this. We don't have financing. But listen to me, what I'm telling you, that the first problem with us Tanzanian engineers is the mindset. And the other point I want to say is that Tanzania, the mechanical engineer should take his or her positions, because we need to start from manufacturing. You know, in our discussions, in all the meeting, we did not talk about manufacturing at all. We talked about only in our comfort zones, in the education system, improvement of the education system, and we talked about the infrastructure. But we need to be very serious to invest in industrial development. And the mechanical engineer have to take his role, followed by electrical, electronics, and the electronics engineer. Then others can join and support. Tanzania engineer is too much obsessed with position. We are so busy with the position instead of development of technology solutions. And I want to tell the engineer also that technology development is not expensive. And technology development is not difficult. And I want to ask the Tanzania engineer whether we have exhausted our availability of social networks as a tool for looking for ideas, for developing technologies, and developing the industry. If we have not exhausted, we better take our position right now. So have the engineer exhausted his position? And the last point here, teamwork should be highlighted. It is very important, and they have been talked by the presenters in the meeting. So we need to fill the gaps. Tanzania engineer need to fill it, but we need to come back to the fundamentals. I have one YouTube account where I'm talking about the fundamentals of engineering science. Now we are having a lot of engineers who are graduating. They don't know the basics for performance of machines, motors, maybe strength of material and whatever. They are not given basics. So people are studying engineering as type of cooking book, a cookbook. You need to have the principles for the building blocks for industrial development before you teach the students now about the actual industries or actual field where they are studying. So, and then we need to make another point I want to discuss. What do we need to make e-vehicles, electrical vehicles? We need now to try to brainstorm as engineers to know. We need to wait to change you don't need to wait the education system. We need to change our mindset, and we need to increase our participation as old engineers, showing an example to others. The old engineer needs to lead by example. So if we lead by example, the other engineers who are studying, they can look at us and emulate what we are doing. Non-engineers, another point is that right now, due to technological development, non-engineers are taking our jobs. So that is a wake call to the Tanzania engineers to do their homework well. Passing exams is not enough. You need to be able now to apply what you have learned and to fit into the actual market. And then another issue I wanted to emphasize is collaboration between academia, industry, and policymakers is inevitable. And if we can start the collaboration, the sooner the better. We'll find a lot of improvement when we start collaborating and sharing ideas. Change your mindset is important before changing the education system. Let me emphasize this, because we had a very good education system, but most of us as engineers, we have excelled as lecturers and administrators, but in industrial development, we have not developed. Tell me any local engineer who own a factory, who own even a workshop. We have not played our part well, let me tell you, engineers. And we think that if we give our recommendations, those recommendations are just for the engineers registration board. We want the board to do everything for us. We want the government to do everything for us, and it's set and make a position for us. That is not possible. The old engineers need to lead by example. Let us take the necessary effort to compete and not look for survival. Whether we will be spectators or not depends on what the steps we are going to take right now. Change of education system should follow after us changing our mindsets. We need to thrive and not survive. Changing the mindset is inevitable. We are behind, and not because of industrial revolution is difficult, but because our mindset is not proper. The focus has been on infrastructure and changing the education system, but we have not said how much we have invested in the industry. Where are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? We need now, as engineers, to discuss. We cannot afford to wait until the end of the year. We can start discussing those issues and looking for solutions in our discussion groups. The education system and infrastructure is expected maybe to pay maybe within 30 years. But if we change the mindset, it will pay within 2 or 3 years. I remember Engineer Mr. Masanja Kadogosa, the Director General for Tanzania Railway Corporation, said that they made a feasibility making a rail between Dar es Salaam to Kigoma, and said that it will pay 15 years after construction. But I was imagining that it can take it more than 10 years to complete constructing the rail. So if we take 10 years of construction and 15 years of operation now, we are talking about 25 years. But if we invest in the mindset of the people, if we invest in the education system of the people, and give them assignment that now we need to have your ideas. We have been educated for 4 years as an engineer, and we need your solutions in this and that area. That can pay even within 2 or 3 years, I tell you, or 5 years, let me say. So, changing of mindset is important. We need to thrive and not to survive. Now I want to tell you that we need to go back to the fundamentals. The current education system is not giving the students fundamentals. So you can find somebody, you say, I have designed a building, I have calculated shear forces. What is it? What is shear force? He cannot tell you. You know, there is a tension. What is tension? What is compression? He does not know. There are a lot of things I can see. People are busy doing the calculations. And that is an enemy to innovation. Claiming is an enemy to innovation. People should understand what they are told. By the way, you can listen to my other YouTubes where I've talked about the fundamentals of engineering science and take the right measures. Basics, for example, in drawing, I have seen a graduate civil engineer with an experience of 2 or 3 years. But you ask him what is isometric projection, he does not know. So he does not know even how to prepare a drawing in 3 dimensions. And of course, innovation involves visualization. You need to have a real picture of what we want to do in future. The education system should focus on bringing the real picture than involving difficult calculations. We are so busy with the calculations. Okay, we need the calculations. I'm not saying that we don't need them. But we need also to have an idea what we are calculating. And my presentation now, I want to say about the mechanical engineer. The mechanical engineer should take his or her position. I can say that the mechanical engineer has not taken his or her position. To fill the gaps, we need to check the basic machines. I have talked about electric motors, about pumps, about engine. We start manufacturing them here in Tanzania. And the mechanical engineer should take the leading role. Therefore, the mechanical engineer must take a leading role. We can talk about we need to bring basics on programming, workshop technology, computer-aided manufacturing. People should now be able to know how to do computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing. I'm a civil engineer. But I've even learned on how to prepare 3D drawings concerning my technical ideas, and those should have been done by a mechanical engineer. So we need to have those basics which can enable people to do things and not to do administrative duties. Tanzania cannot make it even the basic machines, and the demand for the mechanical engineer to take his or her place is very big. Then other engineers like electrical, civil engineer, etc. shall provide support. Technology development is not expensive. Starting a workshop, for example, can cost you less than 5 million. If you have got a land, it can cost you less than 5 million. Let me say less than 10 million. How many engineers have got 10 million? How many engineers are investing 50, 100 million shillings to find it, to establish a bar? How does that relate to our profession? Even mechanical professors, electric professors in the mechanical engineering making a bar, what can you say about that? So also we need to have basic knowledge and skills should be our capital. And then we need a little money, not very great amount of money, if we have got the right knowledge and the right skills. Then we must have something what we call sympathetic sociological. I've written in my book, Technology as the Arts. That is one of the most important ingredients for a society which is developing technology. We must have people who are ready to contribute to industrial revolution. For example, in the first industrial revolution, the middle income were the people who support development of the industrial revolution, the doctors, the lawyers, the economists, the engineers. They contributed from their salaries. So it is not difficult if we know why we need to go there, and if we can try to invest a little, not much, on technological development, we can leapfrog. So can, I don't know, leapfrog or frog leap, jump and go to the another stage. So let us start small and grow big. We cannot afford to postpone. Technology development is not difficult. It can be done. Play your part. That was the first, the slogan which was used by Julius Nyerere, the founder of the United Republic of Tanzania, he was using it during, independence time, when we got independence. It can be done, play your part. And I want to tell you, fellow engineers, it can be done, play your part. So we need to know the basics. Copying is acceptable also. We don't need to do research to know how to make electric motors when we can copy what other people are doing. You don't need to use your brains also. You just need a team. If you have teamwork, that is important. You want to make a certain machine, you have an electrical engineer there, a mechanical engineer, and the other engineers if needed. Then everyone shares his idea. Then it is possible. It is not difficult. So teamwork can simplify the work, and trial and error is also acceptable as a tool for engineers to develop technologies. Teamwork or signage, because Dr. Langa said about it have to be synergetic, cannot be avoided. Remember my book, remember my YouTube account about brainstorming or kuchanga mawazo kama mbinu za maendeleo ya teknolojia. Please watch my YouTube account, engineers. That is very important. Then I want to advise the Association of Consulting Engineers. We need now to start diversifying. The Association of Consulting Engineers can form as a team, start that. What do we need to be technology developers? We can, maybe people can start it individually in their consulting firms, but we can start it as a team. So that is an idea. I need the Association of Consulting Engineers to do their homework on the issue. technological development is multidisciplinary. So that's why I'm saying that we need to form teams for technological development. We find things to be difficult because every engineer is thinking on his training. But if you can think and you call another engineer, please help me, please help, you'll find that you are having solutions. Let us start small and grow big. We can afford. We cannot afford to postpone, ladies and gentlemen. Retired Colonel Simbakalia talked about electric vehicles are possible, and of course the electric motor cars, I think they have got motors and batteries and whatever, and brainstorming is inevitable, but engineer retired Colonel Simbakalia can assist us, can lead us on the issue. Non-engineers, another thing I want to tell you is that non-engineers are taking our jobs while the engineers are fast asleep. I have seen people who will never go, one person who started teaching, but he is able now to operate real-time kinetic GPS, and he can take coordinates and submit them, and when he brings them to you, you find they are okay. But he did not study engineering, he did not study surveying. I have heard even about somebody who he did not know even to read and write, but he learned to read and write, and he learned the technologies. So engineers should not sleep. Engineers should be taught to learn always. Otherwise, others will take our jobs, because now the fourth industrial revolution is simplifying the works. We need to prepare our youth to participate as technology developers. We need to support them even financially. That is very important. There is precision agriculture, which is not done in Tanzania, or if it is done, not much, but we can invest in it. So if the engineers continue to sleep, other people are going to take our positions, and they've already started. One issue I want to say also, which is very important, how effective are we using the social network in development of technologies among the engineers? We are told that the Tanzania is number 7 internet user in Africa. Number 7 in Africa. But I want to ask, how is that helping Tanzania to thrive in technological development? We are just discussing about non-serious issues like politics, entertainment, mainly in that area, and rumor mongering. But I have been in groups with the engineers. If you bring a technology idea, nobody wants to discuss it, and that is going to make us to be spectators and not participants if you don't change. So Tanzanian engineers need to change mindset. Brainstorming team is inevitable, and those social network tools like WhatsApp, Facebook, and whatever can assist us in brainstorming towards technological development. All the engineers should lead by example. So all the engineers like myself, I'm very young. I'm only 61 years, but I'm still participating to lead the younger ones towards industrial development. So let us start small and grow big. You don't need to start it high. You can start just where you are. We need to start to discussing rather than to wait. For now, we know that we have already told the Engineers Registration Board what to do. Now we are sleeping, waiting at another September. Now we meet again. Then we will start asking the Engineers Registration Board, what did you do about what we discussed? No, that is not the right attitude. Engineers should start brainstorming, should start discussing, should start enterprises. The government cannot do everything. We should not expect the Engineers Registration Board and the government to do everything. If we are expecting that, then we are mistaken. We need to showcase our achievements when we meet again. Another thing I want to ask, can we have startups for technological development? For example, if we said as Tanzania engineers, we need to have 10 groups who have studied mechanical engineering, computer and manufacturing, automation and whatever. And we say that we want to give each group 50 millions. How much are we going to use? Only 500 million Tanzanian shillings. If you divide it to the number of Tanzanian engineers, it is not much. Maybe it is about 2,000 or 3,000 Tanzanian shillings. So it is possible. We can have startups, maybe of 10 companies. But those youngsters graduating from our university should be properly trained. They should have the right skills. No, we are not giving that amount for them to employ others. No, they should start employing themselves first. They know how to drill. They know what welding. They can do welding. They can do machining. They can use the lathe machine and the other machines. They know computer-aided manufacturing. What they need is just 50 million. I tell you, if we do that every year, we are going to, to have a great breakthrough in our nation. So we need to start now. We cannot wait tomorrow. Conclusions and recommendations. Changing the education system should go hand in hand with increasing our industrial participation. So the old engineers need also to change his mindset and to show examples. So when they go to the university, they come, they find you have established an industry, they learn from us. Technological brainstorming should go hand in hand with the use of social networks. I talked about brainstorming, and I'm talking again, I'm emphasizing that we need to brainstorm. Technological brainstorming should go with implementation. People should start implementing what we are brainstorming. Technology training should not be left for schools alone, but we need to prepare training centers in the industries. The next year's theme should be filling gaps towards fourth industrial revolution. Tanzania engineer cannot afford to wait. What I'll tell you, fellow engineers, the Tanzanian engineers cannot afford to wait. We cannot wait until we meet in 2022 September and then ask you, where did we live? No, we start right now. We establish WhatsApp groups, Facebook, YouTube accounts. We need to start training using YouTube accounts, and Tanzania will leapfrog towards fourth industrial revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me.